Hey everybody, this is Dust for Dust on Gaming, doing another replay of some leagues I've been playing in some of my spare time. This particular time, so played a Blue-White Miracles list, which is what I currently own in paper. This is a deck that I wanted to try. This was a list from Brian DeMars on Channel Fireball. I did his list card for card, see how it would do in a league. The problem I had with Blue-White Control, Blue-White Miracles, is the deck takes forever to close. And I'm not necessarily the tightest player when it comes to playing a control deck that has to remain in control the entire game. I prefer having control decks that can turn around, pivot, and kill the opponent, and Lightning Bolt and Lightning Helix, in addition to Snapcaster Mages and Celestial Colonnades, do a pretty good job of closing out some matchups. So, this is just a reminder, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you're an OG, as Space Marine put it, or you're a newer viewer and you want to support the channel, please consider looking at our Patreon page. The link will be down below in the description. So, this is Brian DeMars' list. It's basically, so you will look at a Blue-White Miracles list, and this is the one that I actually played in paper and online and stream. So you have a lot of card filtering, things like Thought Scour, Hieroglyphic Illumination, Opt, to be able to trigger your Terminus. This approach of the Second Sun was kind of an addition from Jeff Hoogland's stream, and also a way to kind of close out the game, because like I said, I hate trying to just control the game with things like Jaces and Teferis, and winning, arbitrarily with Snapcaster Mage, Celestial Colonnade, or Jace Ultimate. So I kind of prefer to play a little more closing speed. But this is the deck card for card that I played on stream and in paper a couple weeks ago. So just as the baseline, you're replacing some of the additional card advantage stuff with burn spells, basically. So you're switching the deck up a little bit. But generally speaking, they're trying to execute the similar game plan. Kill all your opponent's creatures, counter the relevant spell or two, and then try to close out with a Planeswalker, or arbitrarily beat them down with Snapcaster Mage while churning card advantage with their Planeswalkers. So, it's pretty much what the deck's trying to do. So this list, how it differs from the Blue-White list, is you have the 3-color mana base, so you're stretching your mana base a little bit more. You can only play 3 Field of Ruin instead of 4. In addition to, instead of extra cards like additional cantrips or such, you're running Lightning Bolt and Lightning Helix to pair with your Path to Exiles to interact with early creature decks, and you're still running the full 4-off Terminus to sweep the board, and you can usually set that up with Jace or Opt. There's less cards in this list to set it up at instant speed. You basically have Opt, Cryptic Command as your only ways to trigger it during your opponent's turn. You have one less Search for Azcanta than we had in the other version. Still a very powerful card. Your entire main deck, other than Snapcaster Mages, is either lands or non-creature spells. So, a lot of targets with Search for Azcanta. It's a card selection and then eventually card advantage engine. And then obviously Jace and Teferi make this kind of plaything relevant. You run 3 Logic Knot, 3 Cryptic Command to handle non-creature threats. And beyond that, you can use your bolts to kind of hold opponent's Planeswalkers at bay. Sideboard of Brian's list was 3 Stony Silence with the Rise of KCI and the Hardened Scales Affinity list. 1 Dispel for the control mirror decks like Burn. Same thing with Negate. Also comes in against decks with a lot of Planeswalkers. Vendilion Clicks when you need to pressure your combo opponents, and Disruption, especially in the control mirrors. 2 Geist of Saint Wrath, very similar situation when you need to pivot and become an aggro deck. Either you're either low on clock, or you're in a matchup that you just can't control, things like Tron and such. A couple Alpine Moons for decks like Tron, Valakut, also can come in against creature lands, can disrupt your opponent. If they have like one particular relevant thing like Search for Azcanta, or in this case, it would be Azcanta the Sunken Ruin, or something along those lines. Singleton copy of Abrade to deal with artifacts, also another removal spell. Another Lightning Helix in very similar vein, and then a couple copies of Dampening Sphere, helping the problematic Tron matchup, and comes in against decks like Storm ad nauseum, etc. Obviously, Tron's not a good matchup. Blue-White has a little bit better time because they have the 4 Field of Ruin, and they usually also have some number of surgical extractions in the sideboard. This list is hedging more with things like Alpine Moon, Dampening Sphere, and Stony Silences to slow the Tron opponent down, and then trying to close out with like Geist of Saint-Traft, like a Jeskai tempo, Jeskai Geist shell in the post-board games, because you just can't control Tron for long enough. So it's pretty much the list. I'm gonna go ahead and play through the first 2 matches. I'm gonna save the other 3 matches for a different thing because I want to get to a live stream tonight, and playing through Control is a little more. You need to be a little more like not quite as quick through as many things because there's a lot more decisions in these games than like a replay of Burn or something. So, alrighty. Believe this is the first game in the league. Is in fact our first thing here. So bring this over. This is what our first opening hand of the deck looked like. It was Flooded Strand, a couple of Celestial Colonies, a Path, a Bolt, and a Terminus. So, hand seems pretty reasonable. Bolt and Path deal with early creatures. Terminus you can set up with Jace, so it's not completely a dead card in your hand as this Expanded Wrath. So I believe I end up keeping this hand. Yep, and we're on the play. So even better, we lead on Colonnade here. It's possible it would have been better to lead on Flooded Strand to be able to hold up Bolt, but I just wanted to get my lands into play. Only one deck in the format plays Amulet of Vigor, and that's Amulet Titan, so our hand's reasonable in this matchup, but not like great. And I definitely should have held up, played one of my fetch lands here, because our opponent turn 2 Azusa is problematic, because they're able to obviously play a turn 2 Azusa would have been bad there. I guess they technically didn't have turn 2 Azusa, but being able to like bolt this Sakura Trap Scout's relevant too. So I just grab a mountain and bolt it right away. You definitely want to stunt their mana development, and opponent's going to Bajuka Balgus, which is annoying, but kind of whatever here. Let them continue to develop their thing. We need to be able to have Path for when they finally hit Titan, because Titan's the relevant card. Another Amulet of Vigor gets a little scary. Opponent obviously has nothing here. So, it's possible. I was going to say it's possible I should have flashed in Snapcaster Mage there, but I didn't have the Bolt anymore, so. Just resolve the Jace. Go ahead and Fate Seal them, because their creatures in play could potentially kill them. And I didn't think at the time that they had the Titan, since they didn't just jam it the previous turn. So I'd start Fate Sealing them. Turns out they did have the Pact in hand, so they go and get Titan here. I let them get their lands before I Path here. They get a whole lot of mana. They're going to give their Titan haste here. They pick up a Teleria West. Tap a bunch of mana. See if okay, that was bizarre. Guess this replay isn't going to work. Well, that kind of sucks. Alright, well, it seems like there's an issue with replay against decks that are searching their libraries of some kind. So, basically, game 1, we kind of run them out of threats and then just burn them out. Game 2, they're able to land a Rurik Thar with the help of Cavern of Souls. I play a Terminus instead of Path to Exile because they have a couple other creatures in hand. I have to hardcast the Terminus because the game had gone for a little while. They turned around and had a Spell Pierce that they got me with because I didn't play the Path to Exile. I played the Terminus. Hardcast mode, they were able to kill us from there. And then game 3, much like game 1. We just kind of ran them out of threats and then just arbitrarily killed them. So, kind of sucks that the replay doesn't appear to be working because of, I don't know if it's too many triggers from the amulet deck or whatnot. But we did end up winning the match. Guess we can take a look at game 2 here, see if it actually cooperates or not. Kind of sucks because I really wanted to watch these replays myself. Let's take a look at sideboarding. So I boarded out the Lightning Helixes and boarded in. We're also boarded out a Cryptic Command, boarded in an Abrade, boarded out a Jace, which may or may not have been incorrect. I brought in the 2 Geists, the 2 Vendilion Clicks, and an Abrade, boarded out a Cryptic Command, a Jace, couple Lightning Helixes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a Logic Knot. So the reason I boarded out some of the counter magic is they have Cavern of Souls in their deck, and they also run Pact of Negation, Spell Pierce, and such. So counter magic isn't particularly good against them. You generally want to try to line up your Path to Exiles against their threats, because they usually only have like 5 or 6 threats of relevance. Obviously, this is a mulligan. We have no disruption. Turn 3 Geist on the draw is just too slow against Amulet. Gotta go to 5 here. Double Terminus hand, pretty awful. Put that Teferi to the bottom. We just need land drops pretty much. Opponent plays a Scout. Not much we can do about this. Still nothing. Opponent just continues playing lands. We have a path, but we gotta save the path for the big boys at this point. They transmute Teleria West to go get Cavern of Souls, which turns our counters useless. They name Giant. Importantly is holding up Sakuras Tribe Scout to play around like Field of Ruin or anything. They brought in their Graveyard Hate. They play Azusa. Like I said, they're starting to get a board presence here. Once again, we can't counter anything. They play Rurikthar into the face of all this open mana. They don't seem to care. Instead of pathing here, which I probably should have done, I end up casting, planning on casting Terminus on my next turn, and then run right into their Spell Pierce. So we take 6, and then we take effectively lethal there, because I can't cast any spells, so. And opponent plays an Ugin, which is kind of random for their deck, so which would have killed us as well. Then game 3, hopefully we won't have a glitch due to too many amulet triggers. I'm guessing that's what happened, is the game just glitched out because of the amulet triggers. So this looks like the same sideboard plan. Want to be a little more aggressive in a matchup where I don't necessarily know that we have complete inevitability. This hand's a little bit more acceptable. The double Colonnade obviously kind of sucks, but having a couple ops and the search for Azcanta to find what we're looking for in the matchup, a little more comfortable keeping this than some of our other hands. Play as Radiant Fountain into Relic of Progenitus. We gotta draw a Logic Knot, which is kind of useless in the matchup. I guess I shouldn't say it's useless, but it's has some issues. Opponent, Ancient Stirrings, find their Cavern of Souls, which once again makes Logic Knot a little bit less useful. Terminus, we put that in the graveyard. We draw a Lightning Bolt, we're looking for a land here. Opponent forces us to get rid of the Terminus. Go ahead and opt here again, see another Lightning Bolt, finally get the plains. So reveals Path to Exile, put that in the graveyard. We draw another Lightning Bolt. So we're not doing too good on the land front, but we're doing pretty reasonable on the kill you front. So, given the Cavernous Souls, I decided to click them during their draw step. And the hand we see is kind of loaded. We've got an Amulet, a Pact of Negation, a Primeval Titan, a Teleria West to go get another Primeval Titan. So, got a lot going on here. No blue mana to really do this Teleria West, so I think we end up taking the Prime Time here. Try to hold them off for a turn. Just because not really a whole lot we can do with that Primeval Titan right now if they were to play it. I put the Cryptic Command in the graveyard, start pressuring them with the V-Click. They play out Cavern. Guess they drew into their Titan here. Go and get their lands. Just go ahead and path them here. Actually, a Snapcaster path while the Relic is down. Getting a little bit more pressure in place. Need to start pressuring them. They have a Pact of Negation, which is unfortunate, but they use the Relic to get rid of the Cryptic Command, which is fine. Next turn, their thing is going to be tied up. We finally draw a red source. Go ahead and path their stupid thing. Start pressuring them. Between this and the bolts, we've got them under quite a clock already. Play us as Kuro Scribe Scouts. They get rid of our Path to Exile. Go ahead and bounce something here. End of turn, we crack this. Go ahead and bolt their face. Opt to the graveyard, draw another red source, shock it in. Bolt their thing. Just continue to press their life total here, and then they're dead on the next turn. So they go get a Pact here. Which, I screwed up here. I should have logic knotted their Pact to kind of force them to burn some mana. So they may not have been able to cast the Primeval Titan here then. So that was definitely a screw up on my part. They have multiple Caverns in play. This one's on Giant, that one's on Giant. They get a dude. Go ahead and bolt them here. We draw a Field of Ruin, which means we get to Celestial Colonnade them and kill them. So, like I said, kind of had the tempo game plan Game 2 and Game 3. Game 2 we got punished by Rorkthark. Game 1 we were able to kind of control them long enough to beat them down and execute a very similar game plan with Snapcaster Mages and Jason play. We were just able to basically out-card advantage them, control their draw step long enough that they eventually just conceded to the Jace more than the actual tempo plan. So, alright, match number 2 is this one. This will be the only other match we look at in this video, because like I said, I do want to get to a live stream tonight. Just want to thank everyone for hanging out. I want to thank everybody for supporting the channel. This is one of the decks that I'm considering playing for the RPTQ. Obviously, we're in kind of the early stages of the testing of the deck. First hand's a little bit clunky, but I believe I end up keeping it. As you'll see, it ends up being a mistake. Opponent plays Mountain Goblin Guide. I'm thinking, okay, burn. And then get rid of the Hallowed Fountain there. Opponent has shown us no reason to suspect they're not on burn until this Smog War Marshal that we just happen to have not enough cards to counter, so logic not at its best here. Gets in with Goblin Guide, trigger, put that Cryptic Command on the bottom, draw a land, draw another land. Kind of hoping to opt into a Terminus there, but, you know, they grenade us, drop us to 9. Opponent's being good and aggressive. I can respect that. It goes to attacks. We see lightning bolt on top. Go ahead and bottom that. This basically puts us dead at this point. Off the land to the bottom, and of course we draw the Terminus then. And then we just kind of concede, because, I mean, I can Cryptic Command them, maybe get out of this mess, but they have 2 cards in hand, so I just end up scooping here. May have been a bit premature, but the only thing I had going was this Cryptic Command. These Logic Knots are kind of nonsense. So, moving on to game number 2. It's definitely a premature concession on my part, having looked at it now. Sideboarding, we boarded out a Logic Knot and a Cryptic Command and boarded in Lightning Helix and a Braid. So basically brought in all of our kill spells and boarded out a couple of the counter spells that aren't the most effective against a deck like Goblins. Sand is pretty good in the matchup. Snapcaster Mage, Bolt, lands to cast them, and Teferi to kind of close out the game. So definitely a pretty easy keep here. Lead off on Scalding Tarn, in case I want to bolt something. I just go ahead and fetch a tap land, since we don't have to get them immediately. We play Goblin Guide. Go ahead and attack here. Trigger reveals an island. We bolt the... Then we start the Snapcaster Parade here. Took the damage there, really didn't need to, but run the snap out there. Go ahead and bolt them. Search for his Canta. With Path to Exile backup, continue holding back Snapcaster Mage. Mainly because we're the control deck in this matchup, obviously. Obviously, I got rid of that Snapcaster Mage? Interesting. Fire off to Fairy. Opponent kills my thing. Continue to hold up Path to Exile. Opponent goes Bushwhacker into Bushwhacker. We path one of their guys here. Actually, I path both to keep Teferi at a fairly high level total. Opponent only has 2 cards in hand. Put a Field of Ruin in the graveyard. Transform that as Canta. Pass the turn. Legion Loyalist and opponent scoops. While a little bit premature, we do have an activist Canta going. We have 2 Snapcaster Mages. Teferi ticking up. We're drawing basically 3 to 4 cards a turn if they don't force us to use our mana. Gives like our draw step Teferi plus up to 2 as Canta activations. Pretty good game overall. Looking back at that game 1, the fact that I conceded so early may have been frustrating. It's possible that I could have drawn in, like, Lightning Helixes or something to get myself back into the game, or Terminus. So, it's definitely a premature concession on my part. This hand isn't the greatest. We don't have any early interaction, but I have an Opt, have a Snapcaster Mage. I think I end up keeping this hand. No, I guess I mulligan that hand. That was kind of a borderline hand. This hand's a little bit better. We have a Path, Snapcaster Mage for Path. Bottom of land there. Put it with Fanatical Firebrand. We draw a Cryptic Command, which obviously isn't its best. We start taking some damage here. Opponent gets in for 2. Go ahead and Path the Firebrand, since it has its own ability. Take 1 here. Opponent plays a Blood Moon. This ends up kind of hamstringing us a little bit this game. Opponent plays a Founder Street Denizen, plays a Burning Tree Emissary, plays a Bushwhacker. I have to go ahead and Snapcaster Mage here before combat to keep their Legion Loyalist from triggering Battalion. Path their dude. and then just trade with one of the random idiots here. End up taking 5, going to 10. Play some Goblin Guide here. They revealed Opt on top. Let's run out the Snapcaster Mage, go ahead and block the Goblin Guide. We draw that Opt. I'll just continue chucking in here. Draw Snapcaster Mage off that. Limited on our blue mana though. Foundry Street Denizen. There's a Teferi. If we can set that up, that'd be nice. Go ahead and plus Teferi. Run out this Snapcaster Mage to block. I think we block the Denizen here. End up going to 1. Use Teferi to get rid of the Blood Moon for a turn. And then we just died a Fanatical Firebrand here. So, pretty rough game. Blood Moon got us a little bit in game 3. It's one of the downsides of playing the 3-color mana base. You're a little bit more vulnerable to Blood Moon. But I've seen even the blue-white version get a little bit trapped by Blood Moon before, especially on turn 3 on the play, or on the draw. Beyond that, need to be a little bit careful with this deck. I definitely scooped prematurely in game number 1 there, which kind of sucked. Beyond that, game number 2 was what it was. We had the tools to beat them. Game number 3, they got us with a little bit with Blood Moon, and then we just kind of, didn't draw anything here. So, Teferi to tuck away that into the Cryptic Command. It's about the only play I had there. I couldn't use these fetch lands, so sometimes you just get got by some of the faster decks. Part of the appeal of Terminus is being able to have the potential to clear out these board states earlier on, but these bushwhack effects can be quite problematic in certain matchups, so sometimes that's what happens. But this has been part 1 of Jeskai Miracles. I have another 3 matches that I have to review, but I want to get to a live stream tonight. Wanted to break this down. These matches obviously take a while, so, unfortunately we didn't get to see game 1 of the Amulet Titan matchup, but we did win that one 2-1, and then we lost to Goblins 1-2. The rest of the matchups were interesting. I think I played against a Death Shadow deck, a Sultai deck, and a Hardened Skills Affinity list. So we definitely ran up against some interesting deck lists. I will not spoil the results, but they were some interesting matches, and some of the matches showed off the flexibility of playing Jeskai over blue-white in terms of being able to close out games in which maybe you can't control everything, but it's about all the spoilers I'm going to get into for those matchups. But I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you're an OG, as Space Marine calls it, please consider donating to our Patreon page to help grow and support the channel. This has been Dusk for Dustin on Gaming.